Anakin Skywalker was always one choice away from changing everything. He had the power to save the galaxy, but fear kept twisting that power into something darker. But what if the Force put something ancient in his hands years before Revenge of the Sith? What if, on Ilum, Anakin didn't find a kyber crystal waiting for him in the ice? What if he found the Dagger of Mortis instead? In this version of the story, Anakin sees the future long before Palpatine is ready, and the galaxy never gets Darth Vader. But what rises in Vader's place might be even stranger. Let's begin. It started in the caves of Ilum. The ice world was silent in the way only Force-heavy places are silent, like the planet itself was listening. Obi Wan Kenobi had brought his young Padawan there under Yoda's instruction, expecting a test of patience, focus, and trust in the Force. Anakin had never been great at patience, but he was still young enough to want badly to prove himself. He stepped away from Obi-Wan's lantern light and followed a pull deeper into the blue dark, certain a crystal was calling him. It wasn't a crystal. At the end of a narrow frozen chamber, buried half in the ice, was a blade. Not a lightsaber. Not anything made by Jedi hands. It was a dagger, long and strange, with a crystalline edge that seemed to catch colors the cave shouldn't even have had. White, red, gold. For a second, a ring of pale green mist moved around it and vanished. Anakin didn't know what he was looking at, only that every instinct in him said the same thing. Take it. When he wrapped his hand around the hilt, the whole cave seemed to breathe. Obi-Wan found him standing there in silence, staring at the weapon like it had spoken. He frowned at once. Anakin, where's your crystal? Anakin looked up slowly. I don't think this is a mistake, Master. Yoda studied the dagger from a distance. His ears lowered. His face didn't change much, but Obi-Wan felt the shift in him immediately. Whatever this thing was, Yoda didn't like it. Still, when Anakin said the Force had led him to it, Yoda didn't order him to drop it. He only said, chosen by something, this blade was. Whether chosen rightly, learn we must. So they brought it back to Coruscant. No one in the temple could identify it. The archives gave them nothing. Jocasta Nu found references to ancient Force weapons, lost cult relics, things so old they were more myth than history, but no clear answer. The dagger remained what it had been in the cave, silent, beautiful, and wrong. Yet it never harmed Anakin. In fact, it seemed to answer him. In training, it moved with impossible precision. It could meet a lightsaber without breaking. It made Anakin faster, sharper, more dangerous in close quarters. He adapted to it so quickly that even the Masters had to admit it suited him. Obi-Wan still hated it. He tried not to show it, but Anakin could tell. There's nothing natural about that blade. Obi-Wan told him one night after sparring, you don't wield it, you listen to it. Anakin clipped the dagger to his belt and smiled the way only teenage Anakin could. Maybe that's because it's smarter than I am. It wouldn't be difficult. For a second, they both laughed and the tension passed. But only for a second. Years moved on. Anakin grew older. The war came. Ahsoka Tano became his Padawan. He became the hero of the Republic, brilliant, reckless, adored by the troops, quietly distrusted by part of the Council, and watched every step of the way by Chancellor Palpatine. Through all of it, the dagger stayed with him. Most people thought it was just one more unusual habit of Skywalker's, one more sign that he did things his own way. Only a handful of Jedi ever noticed that when Anakin was near it for too long, the air around him felt different. Then came Mortis. The distress signal drew the Jedi into deep space, and the impossible world pulled Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka out of the known galaxy and into something older. Mortis was not a normal place. It was the Force made physical, light and dark, given shape and voice. There Anakin met the daughter, the son, and at last the father, the being holding both of them in check. The father looked at Anakin's belt and his expression changed. So, he said quietly, it found you early. Anakin's hand moved to the dagger at once. You know what this is? I hid it beyond the reach of my children, the father said, and beyond the reach of the Sith. I placed it where only the chosen one could find it. I hoped, when the day came, that you would arrive ready. Obi-Wan stepped forward, already protective. Ready for what? The father's eyes stayed on Anakin. To take my place. That was the moment everything shifted. The father explained what the dagger truly was. It was no ordinary weapon. It could control the daughter and the son. It could kill them if needed. It existed because even beings like them required an end. And Anakin, because of what he was, because of what the Force had made him to be, had been allowed to carry it long before he understood it. The father was dying. Balance on Mortis would not hold forever. If Anakin stayed, if he accepted the role, he could keep the light and dark in check and become the new guardian of balance itself. Anakin stared at him in disbelief. "I can't stay here." "You can," the father said. "You won't want to." And that was exactly the problem. Anakin thought of the war, of Obi-Wan, of Ahsoka, of Padme. Though he said nothing of her, he thought of all the people still living ordinary lives while this strange family of gods argued on a mountain outside time. He had spent his whole life being told he was important, chosen, destined, but now he was being told the price. Stay here forever and save reality. Leave and let the galaxy keep turning on broken wheels. The son saw the hesitation and smiled. He began showing Anakin things, not lies exactly, worse than lies. Futures, possibilities, Padme dying in pain, clone troopers turning on Jedi generals, the temple burning, Obi-Wan broken on black sand beneath a red sky, Anakin himself in black armor, burned, screaming, kneeling to Sidious. Then other visions came too, Palpatine dead. The war ended, Padme alive, holding children. A galaxy at peace beneath Anakin's hand. Not one future, many. The dagger had been quiet for years. On Mortis, it woke up. Its blade glowed in Anakin's hand, and he felt the visions tear through him so hard he nearly dropped it. The daughter came near him then, calm and sorrowful. "He'll show you what you fear most," she said, meaning her brother. "And he'll show you what you desire most. He doesn't care if you can still tell the difference." The son moved like a storm after that. He wanted the dagger for himself. He wanted the father gone. He wanted Anakin desperate enough to accept dark side help willingly. The fight that followed broke Mortis open. The son struck at the father. The daughter threw herself into the path of death to save Anakin and Ahsoka. The father, wounded and fading, understood that his time was over, but this time, Anakin was already holding the blade. The father took Anakin's wrist and forced the dagger downward into his own chest. Obi-Wan shouted. Ahsoka reached for Anakin. The son froze. The father gasped once, and in that one breath, Anakin felt the old being's entire purpose collapse into him like a dying star. "My death strips him of eternity," the father whispered. "Now choose." The son roared and came at him. Anakin moved on instinct. Not anger, not mercy, just certainty. The dagger entered the son's chest, and for one terrible second, nothing happened. Then the dark side itself seemed to scream. The son's body came apart in burning strands of crimson force energy and vanished into the blade. The daughter's fading light rose from where she had fallen and met that darkness halfway. White and red spiraled together. They didn't return to Mortis. They went into Anakin. He collapsed to his knees. The dagger dropped beside him, suddenly still, but he could feel it. Not in his hand anymore. In his mind, in his spine, in the center of his being. The father's monastery started cracking apart. Mortis was dying with its keepers. Obi-Wan and Ahsoka dragged Anakin toward the ship as the realm tore itself to pieces around them. Behind them, the father's voice came one last time, weaker than wind. "You were meant to choose with wisdom. Now you'll have to learn it through pain." Then Mortis vanished. They woke in normal space as if no time had passed. But everything had changed. Anakin remembered all of it. In canon, the memories of Mortis were washed away. Here, they weren't. They couldn't be, because the dagger had bonded to him. It no longer needed to glow for him to feel it. It was his. Worse, the things inside it were awake. The daughter's peace, the son's hunger, the father's warning. Every time Anakin closed his eyes, he saw futures branching in every direction. Padme dead in one, alive in another. Ahsoka walking away forever. Palpatine smiling with yellow eyes. The Republic falling. The Republic saved. The Jedi triumphant. The Jedi slaughtered. He didn't just dream about tomorrow, he drowned in maybe. Sleep became impossible. Obi-Wan noticed first. Ahsoka noticed second. Palpatine noticed fastest. When Anakin entered the Chancellor's office a few days later, Palpatine's pleasant smile almost slipped. He felt something in Anakin that terrified him. Not simple darkness, not Jedi light, something jagged and ancient, like a wound torn across the Force and stitched shut by divine hands. He tried to probe the young Jedi's mind and found a wall. Not even a wall. A blade. "What happened to you, my boy?" Palpatine asked softly. Anakin's eyes narrowed. "Why do you care?" "Because you look troubled." "I've seen things." Palpatine folded his hands, hiding his alarm. "The future is always in motion." That would have once sounded wise to Anakin. Now it sounded evasive. The dagger at his side pulsed once, and in that instant he saw the Chancellor covered not in robes but in darkness. Darth Sidious. At last, the face matched the fear. Palpatine wasn't his only problem. The Council felt it too. Yoda, Mace Windu, Plo Koon, all of them sensed the power bound to Anakin. When he drew the dagger in the Council chamber, the very room recoiled. Light dimmed, shadows lengthened, visions spilled into the air for every master to see. Mustafar, Vader, the Jedi Temple, then another path, Sidious dead, the war over, Anakin standing between light and dark with the galaxy kneeling because it had no other choice. Mace looked at him like he was a live detonator. This weapon has to be surrendered. Anakin's jaw tightened. You're asking me to hand you the only thing that's telling me what's coming. We're asking you to trust us, Obi Wan said. And there it was. The worst line they could have given him. Because trust was exactly what had started to die in Anakin. The Council wanted obedience. Palpatine wanted control. The dagger wanted choice without guidance. And none of them understood the real problem. Anakin was trying to save people he loved from futures he could already see. So he left. Palpatine moved quickly after that. He sent Count Dooku to take the blade. Dooku, in turn, pulled Ventress into the trap. They cornered Anakin above a shattered supply world, separating him from most of his forces and forcing him onto a ruined platform hanging over open air. Ahsoka reached him just in time to stop Ventress from striking his back, but Dooku had already understood what the dagger was. His face went pale. That artifact should not exist in mortal hands. Anakin ignited his lightsaber with one hand and drew the dagger with the other. Funny, I was just thinking the same thing about you. Dooku attacked with all the elegance Anakin hated. Makashi, precision, control. The old Count had always fought like the duel mattered more than the war. But this time, Anakin had seen the fight before it began. He knew every angle, every feint, every place Dooku wanted his feet to land. When the opening came, it didn't come from rage. It came from timing. Anakin drove the dagger into Dooku's chest. The Count didn't fall. He unraveled. Ahsoka stared in horror as Dooku's body dissolved into pale streams of force energy that vanished into the blade. Anakin staggered backward, suddenly full of things that weren't his. Dooku's knowledge, Dooku's arrogance, Dooku's years of bitterness. It lasted only a second, but it was enough to terrify him. That night, he went to Padme. He told her more truth than he had ever told anyone. Not everything, but enough. He told her about Mortis, about the futures, about death waiting in some of them for her and for the children she hadn't yet told him she was carrying, though he already knew. Her eyes filled when he said their names out loud for the first time. Luke and Leia. Padme took his hand and looked at the dagger on his belt, like it was a living thing. This isn't saving you, Anakin. It's swallowing you. He wanted to tell her she was wrong. He wanted to promise he could control it, but he couldn't. So he did the only thing he had left. He held her and told himself he would choose the right future before it was too late. Then came the Chancellor's office. Mace Windu moved to arrest Palpatine. The truth was finally in the open. Sidious dropped the mask and the room became a storm of red blades and blue lightning. The other masters died quickly. Mace held the line alone, forcing the Sith Lord back toward the edge of the office. Then Anakin arrived, and time seemed to split in front of him. He saw one future where he saved Palpatine. Padme died. He became Vader. He saw another where he helped Mace strike Sidious down with a lightsaber. The Sith died, but the clone conspiracy survived in the shadows. The war changed shape instead of ending. He saw a third path. Not clean, not noble, just clear. The dagger. Palpatine looked up at him, sensed the decision, and for the first time in his life truly panicked. "Anakin," he said, voice cracking. "Don't." Anakin stepped behind him. "For once," he said quietly, "I'm not doing what either of you wants." Then he drove the Dagger of Mortis into Darth Sidious. The scream that followed was not human. It was older than the Republic, older than the war. Sidious came apart like Dooku had, but darker, deeper, more violent. Centuries of Sith hunger poured into the blade and hit Anakin like a tidal wave. He saw empires, tombs, rituals, Exegol, Bane, Plagueis, every rotten thing the Sith had carried forward into him. When it ended, the office was silent. Mace Windu looked at Anakin in horror. "You've killed him." Anakin looked down at the blade blazing in his hand. "No, I ended him." Without Palpatine, everything broke open fast. The clone command structure wavered. Hidden orders were uncovered before they could spread. The war machine lost the man who had built both sides of it. Bail Organa, Padme Amidala, Obi Wan, Yoda, and the surviving council members pushed for emergency peace while the Republic still had time. For once, Anakin's visions actually helped. He used them to stop assassinations before they happened, intercept separatist retreats, and force an end to battles that would have killed millions. And for a little while it worked. The war ended. Padme lived. The twins were born. Darth Vader never existed. That should have been the happy ending. It wasn't, because the dagger never stopped. Now it showed him even more. Futures where his children died if he let go. Futures where the Republic collapsed into corruption again. Futures where surviving Sith cults rose from the dark. Futures where the Jedi tried to take the blade by force. Futures where peace lasted only as long as Anakin stayed above everyone, stronger than everyone, seeing more than everyone. He started solving problems before anyone else knew they existed. Then he started deciding which problems were allowed to exist at all. Crime dropped. Trade stabilized. Star systems stopped starving. Separatist holdouts surrendered because somehow Skywalker was always waiting for them. The galaxy loved him at first, then feared him, then both. Padme saw it before most people did. One night, with Luke and Leia sleeping nearby, she looked at him across the room and said the words he had been dreading since Mortis. "You saved me, but you're disappearing anyway." Anakin looked at his children, then at the dagger, then back at her. He couldn't lie anymore. "The father was right," he said. "I was never meant to keep this and stay a man." That was when he finally understood the trap. The dark future was never only Vader. It was control. It was the belief that if Anakin could just hold enough power, see enough, manage enough, then no one he loved would ever be lost again. Vader was one shape that instinct could take. This was another. Cleaner, calmer, more convincing, but still wrong. So he made the hardest choice of his life. Harder than killing Sidious. Harder than any battle. He chose to leave. Mortis returned to him not as a planet on a map, but as a door in the Force. The realm had not fully died. It had been waiting for him to stop fighting the role he had been offered from the beginning. Obi-Wan went with him to the edge of that door. Ahsoka came too. So did Padme, carrying Leia while Bail held Luke. None of them tried to stop him. That was what made it hurt. Obi-Wan's eyes were wet, though he tried not to show it. "So this is it." Anakin nodded. "If I stay here, I become something none of you can bring back." Ahsoka stepped closer. "Then don't stay here." He almost smiled. "That's the point, Snips. I can't stay there either." Padme didn't cry until the very end. She put a hand against his face and held it there like she was memorizing him. "Will we ever see you again?" Anakin looked past her for a second, as if listening to something far away. "Maybe," he said, "but not like before." Then he turned and walked into the light. On Mortis, or whatever was left of it, the daughter's presence greeted him first. Not as a body, as warmth, as peace. The sun was there too, but quiet now, contained, no longer a will loose in the galaxy. The father's throne stood empty at the center of the realm, waiting since the day Anakin first refused it. This time he didn't refuse. He took the dagger in both hands, the blade that had called to him from the ice of Elam, the weapon that could kill gods, the thing that had nearly made him one in all the wrong ways. He placed it before the throne and stepped into the balance willingly. Light rose. Darkness answered. Neither won. When the glow faded, Anakin Skywalker was gone. The galaxy never got Darth Vader. It never got Emperor Skywalker either. Instead, it got something much stranger. A republic that survived, wounded but alive. A Jedi Order forced to rebuild without arrogance. Luke and Leia raised by a mother who lived. A generation that never had to grow under the shadow of the Empire. There were still wars, still grief, still loss. Balance didn't mean paradise, it never had. But somewhere beyond the stars, beyond time, beyond the reach of Sith and Jedi alike, Anakin kept the scale from tipping too far in either direction. And that might be the real tragedy of the Chosen One. He could save the galaxy. He just couldn't stay in it. What if Anakin received the Dagger of Mortis from Ilum? Maybe the prophecy was never about destroying the dark side forever. Maybe it was about becoming the one person strong enough to stand between extremes and refuse both thrones. Not a Jedi victory, not a Sith victory, just balance, paid for with everything he loved. And Anakin Skywalker? In this version, he didn't become Vader. He became the keeper of the very thing that had always torn him apart. If you enjoyed this alternative timeline, make sure to like the video, subscribe for more Star Wars stories, and may the Force be with you.